after over 5 years of legal fireworks, Nigeria has finally succeeded in halting the enforcement of the $11 billion arbitration award in favor of P&Id. In a decision sent by email, Robin Knowles, Justice of the Commercial Courts of England and Wales, upheld Nigeria's request on the grounds that the doomed gas processing contract was secured through deception. On January 31, 2017, a private arbitral tribunal ordered Nigeria to pay P&Id $6.6 billion and interest dating back to March 20, 2013. Before the verdict, the potential payment had risen to approximately $11 billion at a fixed interest rate of 7% or $1 million every day. Now, Arise International correspondent Adefemi Akisanya is outside the Rolls Building Courts in London, and she joins me now. Adefemi, it's so great to see you, and many thanks for joining the show. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Abby, it's so great to hear your voice.
Absolutely.
Very, very much so. And what an occasion it is.
It really is an occasion. It's quite an eventful day.
So,
yeah. Could you share with us the latest from the judgment?
Absolutely. So if we're looking at the judgment, it came down just as we were talking at the last time during our live there. And one of the standouts of this 140-page judgment was the fact that the court described this case as highly unusual. The line that everyone was wanting to hear and to find out was this one, and it follows 8 weeks of a trial that began in the first quarter of this year, with the real juice, the meat and potatoes of this judgment centering on section 574, where the court says that Nigeria succeeds on its challenge under section 68. It also goes on to say that awards were obtained by fraud and that the awards were procured contrary to public policy, and in saying that has clearly sided with the Nigerian argument. There was a clear deviation, though, from some parts of Nigeria's allegations towards P&Id, the court making clear that it did not agree with every single one of Nigeria's arguments, but clearly agreed with enough of them to accept and agree with Nigeria's position that these awards were clearly obtained under fraud and under the umbrella of corruption.
Right, quite a bit to take in there, but of course Nigeria came out victorious as the core of it. But of course the question at Adefemi on everyone's minds is what happens next?
Well, in a situation which was so fiercely contested, you can accept that both parties are going to be highly emotional. We know that the president of Nigeria has come out and commended the decision, and though we haven't heard too much from the side of P&Id, it is clear that they won't be going away silently, and there has been provision for the ability for both sides to present even more arguments should they wish to do so. Looking at section 577 of the judgment, it does say that parties will have the opportunity to present arguments once they have had the ability to consider this judgment. So it does lean to the ability, or perhaps the possibility, that more appeals, clearly not from Nigeria's side, but more appeals perhaps from P&Id could come down the line, and there is the provision and the court's attention along those lines. But as it stands now, this is a huge and remarkable victory for the Nigerian government, not less because of the amount of money. We clearly know that the Nigerian economy has been struggling. Aside from that struggle, the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian government have been very clear and steadfast in its denial of these charges. They have said for years that this deal had come together under the guise of corruption and fraud, and that's exactly what the court have agreed with. P&Id, a company that have fought tooth and nail to get Nigeria to pay the award that it was given back in 2017. You can imagine that it will take its time to go through the judgment in its entirety. It is quite a thorough judgment, and then we can expect some sort of a statement or some form of action from the side of P&Id now. But as it stands now, Nigeria most definitely are the victors and will continue to celebrate under this huge victory. You know that when you're looking at allegations of corruption as it pertains to the global south, the African continent, and indeed Nigeria has seemed to, over the course of decades, been a victim or a proprietor of corruption. So it is refreshing in some instances to see that the Nigerian government has been able to triumph against corruption committed by a third party, committed onto the people of Nigeria, on the Nigerian economy. So it will be interesting to see just how, if at all, P&Id respond. But as I said, Section 577 of the judgment does give provision for both parties to take their time to consider the judgment that has come down today, but also have the opportunity to present even more arguments once they've done so. I do also want to make clear that in addition to the court making comments along the lines of this being a highly unusual case, it also talks a lot about the imbalances that have taken place in the entire situation. It reads in Section 585 that the imbalances are what essentially made the deal what it was, a fraud, a form of corruption. He did say, or it goes on to say, that those imbalances were clearly caused by corruption and fraud. However, it does also note that in areas where corruption and fraud were not present, there were situations where experience, expertise, or resources were grossly unequal, and that also contributed to the imbalances that we're seeing in this case. The bottom line is, as it stands now, Nigeria are the victors. They've been able to step away from the looming balloon of this payment, as you said, and as we've heard over the course of the year, of these years, that this fee, this award that was supposed to be paid by the Nigerian government to P&Id was one of $6.6 billion, a massive amount. Nigeria clearly did not pay that and instead put all of its energy towards this appeals process, which has now come out victorious. But had it not gone that way, they would have been liable to pay far more than $6.6 billion. Indeed, it would have been $11.4 billion because of the rate of interest payments on top of that. So Nigeria, I can imagine, are breathing very, very easily tonight.
Well, absolutely. It is a huge albatross off the Nigerian government's neck. And like you said, a monumental victory. Adefemi, I want to thank you so much for joining the show. We're glad you're on ground.